Martin Popoff here from the Contrarians, back again with another edition of Reliving Old Reviews as a Useless Tool of Confusion, where we look at an old album, an album that we've talked about over and over and over many times recently, but of course in the parlance of the context of modernity, knowing lots about this band and lots about this album. So what I like to do in this little sub-show of ours is look at an old review when the album was fresh, when the band was fresh. Maybe they weren't that big. This happens to be a band that was already fairly big, but and see if the writer kind of got it right. So today we are looking at Yes, Relayer. We've already done one on Relayer, so this is one of our part twos. We can do part two, part three, part four of a lot of these as I find other reviews that I want to read and react to. But yeah, Yes, Relayer. We've already done one where Chris Welch gave it a very smart, thoughtful, good review. And this is by Tony Tyler. By the way, you can still get my two Yes hardcover detailed timeline and quotes books. Yes, I think they're called Yes, a Visual Biography. One goes up to I think 79, and then the second one, the part two, goes up to the modern day. So you can get those at martinpopoff.com. You know, this is around Christmas time. I can send them out from the office here to whoever you want. Blah blah blah. Okay, so Yes, Relayer. This is this is in the New Musical Express in the Platter section. It actually gets a heading and it says exclusive review by Tony Tyler. The heading says hesitant steps to freedom. Very interesting way of looking at Relayer right there already. This is a long one, so buckle in. It starts with a quote, Donald Lemkull, October 1974, snakes are coiled upon the granite, horsemen ride into the west, moons are rising on the planet where the worst must suffer like the rest. Right, and that's a quote, I think, from the back cover inside or something, right? I believe. Anyways, yep, this is another Roger Dean album cover. Begins the review. I love this album cover. I love the muted styles. I remember drawing this one as a kid. I just think it's such a cool cover with the scary snake as well. I think it's one of Roger Dean's best because, yeah, I like that muted sort of light, what would you call that, tan, cream white sort of color palette on it. Then he goes on, and this album is a good deal better than Tales from Topographic Ocean, so sit back and relax. That's not to say it's a wonderful record or even the best that Yes can contrive with their current lineup. Relayer is the best they've been able to contrive with this small amount of time they set themselves for the task. 6 weeks in the studio is not a long time when you've got a totally new musician to integrate into a key role. Of course, we got Patrick Moratz there, so he's mentioning that they worked on this pretty quick. 6 weeks kind of seems like a decent amount of time. Certainly these days kind of thing, but yeah, we are trying to make a Yes record here. And yet already Patrick Moratz has proved the wisdom of their mutual choice, with the result that Relayer is perhaps texturally richer than any recent Yes LPs. I do like that, texturally richer. This does feel filled in, action-packed, as I said in the previous review. I guess I'm going to probably repeat myself a little bit here when it comes to my opinions on this album. But I do like that. And if some of the overcomplication has still not been eradicated, it does seem to function within its own terms much better than on some previous outings. Best of all, I like the apparent return to melodicism. After hundreds of bars of double or even triple tempo passages, the listener starts unconsciously searching for a tune, just as an anchor after all, because Yes music is still fearfully involved. And like all their albums, Relayer needs a few listens before you can get into it on a more superficial level. He's put that all in uppercase lower. I kind of disagree with him here. I actually don't find this album particularly melodic. I think there's more melody, even on Tales from Topographic Oceans, all the old stuff as well. Going for the One, Tornado, Drama. I find more melody on those albums than this one. To me, this is the least melodic Yes album. The first side contains a single section, The Gates of Delirium, and right away it could almost be one of the later versions of King Crimson that we're listening to. Keyboard cascades and fragmentary fast guitar chromatic runs hang in a limbo while an understudied tempo is quietly created from the sound backdrop. But now we're getting into orchestral territory, the very stuff of symphonic rock. And now a fast 4/4 with the words. You know what? I'm going. Well, no, I'll read this stuff. Yeah, because he's even at the end of this, he says all lyrics quoted, copyright Topographic Music Limited, 1974. So he quotes a lot of lyrics from this album in this review. Stand and Fight, we do consider reminded of an inner pact between us that's seen as we go and ride there in motion to fields in depths of honor defending. It's kind of funny. I've been watching a lot of Andee Edwards lately, and he talks about Yes in fairly comedic terms because he's a funny guy. But he talks about how John Anderson kind of writes a bunch of gibberish, right? That sounds good, but the words don't quite line up. It sounds a little bit to me like English as second language sometimes, and you can even see that in that short little bit there. Well, John Anderson's lyrics are surely still based around the Mallorean premise, which has made his name a household word. But this Gates of Delirium piece is somehow unsatisfactory. Perhaps it's the constant changes of tempo or the constant ditching of beats in order to fool the listeners, which makes me frustrated. But the organized passages are remarkably tight, and the sound curtain created by Maratz is a good deal more satisfactory than the previous plethora of consecutive showcases for each member of the group. It's just that I feel that their adoption of free music, as evidenced by their interest in Vangelis Pathanasiou and their subsequent hiring of Patrick Maratz, is a good step to take. And yet these experiments are still much too hesitant and are overwhelmed by the Monstroso orchestral flash rock. You know what, guys? When I do my audio podcast, I use the P baffle here, and I'm going to put this up here. So you're not going to see me as good here, but I wonder, let us know in the comments if the audio is better because I'm not, all that stuff's coming through. So I'm just going to finish this review with the baffle up because, like I say, when I do the audio podcast, which has no video at all, I use this, and yeah, I think it totally works and it makes a great difference. We're roughly here, but all these feelings of frustration vanish on the coda of Gates of Delirium, which is called Soon. The previous pitch of freneticism tapers away smoothly into decidedly frippish weave of sound, which in turn is followed by Steve Howe's pedal steel slowly outlining the melody. I don't think it's particularly frippish. Fripp is way more or less conservative than this is. And this is where you do get some amazing melody on this record. It is a very memorable part. It's hooky. And, in certain ways, it's testimony to this album not being particularly hooky. This is one of the few things you remember from this album pretty easily, right? The piece is slow, decidedly moving by, and by far the nicest moment on the entire album, possibly because of its juxtaposition to about the most fiercely frantic section, and they don't really overdo it. Soon, oh soon, the light, ours to shape for all time, ours the right, the sun will lead us, our reason to be here. A bit optimistic, perhaps, but all good, honest, denim consciousness. And anyway, the tune is really pleasant. This ends the first side. Second half consists of two pieces, Sound Chaser, which is the number they use to open their current stage set, and To Be Over. The former is perhaps the best example of both Maratz's style of playing, plenty of cascading piano and super speed tinkles, and of the free form leanings that the group so wish to adopt. But the final result is a certain amount of hesitation about the way the whole thing should go. The constant tempo changes and dropped beats leave the listener on one leg for far too long. Pretty cool. Good writing here and a very good descriptive review, taking it very seriously like they did in the 70s, right? You had way less albums to review. So people were definitely more serious and more focused on these reviews. And like I say, this is a long review. Yet, although there's plenty of the thunderous speed and precision that typifies this genre, it seems no more excessive than before, largely because of the many moments on Relayer which succeed for precisely the opposite reasons. The next example of which is the final track, the second half of side 2, To Be Over. Again, a tune, several tunes, in fact, it's introduced by Howe's pedal steel and takes a contrapuntal form with the keyboards following the main theme, while the guitar, then another keyboard, then a sitar guitar, gradually exchange and build. There's something vaguely campfire mouth organ about the main melody, but it grows well and ingeniously, and many of the devices used to increase the tension of the fugue work because at all times the individual notes are discernible as fulfilling a function. Pretty cool. So he's basically saying they're making music here, right? This is not something which can always be said of latter-day Yes music and of topographic oceans in particular. Amen to that. So here we have it, the 9th Yes album, and probably the most satisfactory original set since Close to the Edge, for which many thanks, amigos. Wow, that's high praise. All criticisms made relate to general symphomaniac tendencies and to the obvious rush job. And I have a strong feeling that there will be a largely redundant. These will be largely redundant in terms of the next album. After all, Relayer was made in a great deal of haste, and it's my impression that a set in which Marat's full participation had been felt from the very beginning would prove to be the new limb that the band, to their credit, and are most decidedly seeking out. Okay, and of course, it wasn't to be kind of thing, and many changes again when we get to my favorite Yes album, Going for the One. I love Drama as well, and not so much Tormato. Tormato's pretty cool too, but it's you definitely hear the haste on this album, and that's kind of cool. It does make it an exciting whirlwind of an album, and as I've described it before, a little bit fusiony as well. And in this review, you get a picture of Patrick Maratz on this page just for kicks. You get an Al Brown review, a Gong review, a Johnny Winter review, and a BB King and Bobby Bland review. A lot of variety here. November 30th, 1974. So there you go. Another edition of Reliving Old Reviews is a useless tool of confusion. Please like, subscribe, let us know in the comments what you think of this review and my review of this review. And check out my books at martinpopoff.com and my audio podcast, History in 5 Songs with Martin Popoff. Talk to you later.